This routine is going to make me $1 million. Bold claim, I know. But you know, Dan Koh has made over $1 million using this routine, and so has Alex Hormozi. But don't be fooled though. These guys do not have the same daily routines. Alex works for over 12 hours a day, while Dan works for a little more than 4. But they share the same most important elements. And this is what most people get so wrong about routines. They're so eager to adapt the routines to someone else without really understanding why it actually works for them. It's never about reading, cold exposure, meditation, or getting sunlight in the first hour of the morning, or whatever the latest biohacking trick is. People love to latch onto these habits and routines because they can be easily implemented into the routine they have been assigned. It's unfortunate that most people have never intentionally created the routines for themselves. It was assigned from work, school, or even your favorite influencer. How on earth are you meant to create a successful routine if you don't have the building blocks that make a successful routine? So in this video, I'm going to show you a framework that you can use to create your own custom $1 million routine. And at the end of the video, I'm going to show you how I'm implementing this framework for myself. But before we get into that, you need to understand how your routines were assigned to you, because your routines are your life. I really wish that more people understood this. The purpose of a routine is to live the life you want to live, and often it's your job standing in the way of that. So some of you know that I just left my engineering job, and for the first time ever, I have full control to design my routines however I like. I want to run an experiment to see if I actually enjoy designing my days this way. I want to know what I like and what I don't like. And once I know that, I can adjust and iterate. But this isn't possible when you have someone making the decisions for you. Wake up, snooze, scroll the slot machine, sit in traffic, follow orders, contemplate your existence, sit in traffic, again, pat the dog, order Uber Eats, yell at the TV, scroll social media for the 12th time, pass out, repeat. Some variation of this routine is a script for most people's lives. It's the default routine that happens when you unconsciously chase cheap dopamine at every chance. So how did this happen? Well, let's do some math. 8 hours of your day you spend at work. You spend 1 hour either side of work to travel, prepare, and forget. There are errands to do, meals to cook, a house to clean. You have 4 hours left for leisure. Add a 2-hour gym session, including travel time. Now you're left with 2 hours of free time. This assumes you're getting 8 hours of sleep. But most people don't. They trade hours of sleep for hours on their phone. Now let's zoom into the black box that is your workday. You don't get to decide how to spend the most productive hours of your day. If your boss wants to have a meeting at 9 a.m. when your mind is freshest, then that's what we're going to do. Management sees productivity as hours spent at the desk, not the most important task getting completed. I mean, they don't even know what the most important tasks are most of the time. The employee who works intensely for 90 minutes and then takes a 30-minute walk to rest and recover so they can do it again is seen as unproductive. If the weather is particularly nice, like it is today, you can't leave and restructure your work accordingly. The point is, you don't get to decide how to manage your time at most jobs. Now, if you really enjoy your job, then this is probably an okay price to pay. But if you don't, it very quickly becomes the bane of your existence. I saw both sides of this at my engineering job that I just left. When I was enjoying my work, 90% of my days were great. But as I became more bored and underwhelmed and frustrated at the management, the cost became unbearable. Everything you do goes from I get to do this to I have to do this. It goes from opportunity to burden. Now my only savior was the projects that I'm building, this personal brand, and also going to the gym. From my experience, when 9+ hours of the day is stolen from you, the emotional drain is quite fatiguing. You have less energy to do the things that are actually really important to you, and then escaping into cheap dopamine becomes way more appetizing. And very quickly you find yourself in this routine that is not fit for human existence. The only exception to that is if you intentionally choose it for yourself. And if that's the way you want to live your life, no judgment here. But the chances are you didn't decide this routine for yourself. It was the default routine that you unconsciously fell into. And you fell into it to accommodate doing work that you don't care about for people that you don't care about. Now, I can't speak for you, but I know personally it has now become my mission to make sure that I am in control of my routines. And it's largely for that reason that I don't see a job as part of my vision. So you know the saying, out of the pan and into the fire? Well, that perfectly describes how most people approach their routines. When most people realize that they've fallen into this routine, they go to social media. They want to see what the successful people are doing so that if they replicated it, then maybe they can be successful themselves. And I have to think that the Ashton Hall morning routine that went viral has to be pretty close to the end state of this. And I feel sorry for any of the people that signed up to his course from watching those videos. It's just fucking nonsense. Because anyone who isn't trying to profit from the outward appearance of their lifestyle will tell you that it's not your routines that will make you successful. It won't. No amount of early mornings, cold exposure, reading, meditation, journaling, gratitude, all that stuff is going to make you successful. The only thing that's going to make you successful is doing the work that yields results. So here's a pretty good example for you. When I was writing this letter a couple weeks ago, about a week before that, James Smith posted a message to his YouTube community, basically saying that he isn't perfect. Here you have a rather successful person who does none of the routines that you are meant to do. All James does is the work that makes him money. And it's exactly the same with Dan and Alex. What matters most is doing the work that actually yields results. Pulling the levers that moves the needle towards your goals. And that's the exact goal of a routine. The routine exists to serve your goals. You don't serve your routines. So if you're following an influencer or a science-based routine, all you're really doing is outsourcing your decision making to someone who's trying to profit from you. You need to experiment with what works for you and what doesn't. Your routine is your life. It's yours to decide. And no one wants to wake up one morning and realize that they wasted their life. The best moments of our lives are not the passive, receptive, relaxing times. The best moments usually occur when a parent's body or mind is stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something difficult and worthwhile. That is a quote from Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, one of my favorite books right now. So think about your routines as the shelving that holds up the things in your life. Unfortunately, most people fill up the shelves with junk. Passive activities like watching TV and scrolling on your phone that increases life's dissatisfaction, while the most important things are tucked away in a storage box hidden in the wardrobe. The important things always require focus, attention, and effort. In other words, System 2 thinking. System 2 is a juggernaut for cerebral horsepower, but it's hard to mobilize. System 1, however, is fast, responsive, and automatic. Just think about how much focus you needed to have when you were learning to drive. Now it's become so familiar to you that you can drive basically effortlessly. The skill of driving has been offloaded from System 2 to System 1. And that's the purpose of a routine. A routine outsources cerebral horsepower from System 2 to System 1. If we put the important things on the routine shelves, we can automate them. Imagine not having to decide what you're going to do. It's just what you did. You no longer had to think about writing first thing in the morning. It just becomes automatic. How much time and energy would you save? And this is what Alex and Dan do. Even though they're very different people, they both start their day with the most important thing. It's the equivalent of having regularly used items in easy to access places. No one ever puts the most important ingredient in a kitchen, salt, on the bottom shelf at the back of the cupboard. No bro, salt is so important it goes on the counter. The thing is, there's only so much prime real estate to go around, so we really need to be intentional about what goes on the shelves. You need to define how much space you have and what's important to you. And it's really critical that you be ruthless with this. I just wrote in my notes this morning that I want to work hard. I want to get a lot done for the day, but I really dislike the feeling of being busy. So this means I need to be more intentional about how I spend my time and what is actually really important to get done every single day. And this is more important than ever before, because I don't have to structure my day around a 9-to-5 job anymore. I can do whatever I want and structure it however I like. So I've been thinking really carefully about what's going to go on the shelf, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on in the video. The goal of a daily routine is to build a lifestyle you want to live. So work, rest, and play all collapse into one thermodynamically efficient process. Go watch my video about overstimulation if you want to know the context behind that statement. So to actually achieve this, your routine should have 4 shelves. Shelf 1, build. If you can spend 8+ hours of the day building someone else's vision, you can spend 1 hour to build yours. So I've been saying this every video lately, but you need a project. One meaningful project changes everything. It frames your mind, drives your actions in the direction of your vision. It makes your suffering worthwhile. It gives you a reason to be productive and disciplined. A project that gets you into flow, something you can control, something you enjoy, something you are passionate about, and something that benefits both you and other people. You need a project that challenges you, not so much that you get overwhelmed and anxious, but not so little that you become bored and underwhelmed. And most people will hear this and think, well, that sounds great, but I just don't know what project I want to build. And that's okay, because this is the most difficult part. You can't force a project. You cannot trick yourself into caring about something you just don't care about. But you also need to give yourself time, because what you're working on now, it may not be something that you care so much about, but as you keep pouring your time and effort into it, it becomes something that you care really deeply about. I think nearly all projects work out this way. So you need to realize what season of life you're in. In a season of doing, you have a project that directs your focus. You cannot pull away from it. And if that's you, don't fight it. Lean into it. Get so immersed in the project that you forget to eat. The other season is a season of being. Things feel stagnant. Instead of trying to force yourself into action, give yourself permission to experiment inwards. Walk, read, listen to podcasts, watch interesting YouTube videos, write out your ideas, follow your curiosity, and wait until you have an idea that you want to dig deeper into. Curiosity is always the start of the greatest projects. And a great project is how you change your life. Your build routine is when you do the few but very important tasks to build your future. It's your uninterrupted hours of the day that no one can take away from you. Early mornings or late nights, you need to decide which one works best for you. Shelf 2, decide what you're going to suck at in advance. That's a quote from Oliver Berkman that I stole from the Modern Wisdom podcast. So building requires a lot of focus and energy. Maintaining though, not so much. But you have to really understand this. What you do not maintain is always going to decay. So you put the things that you do not want to decay on this shelf. The things that are important enough for you to maintain. The temptation is to fill all 4 shelves with maintenance tasks, because there isn't any shortage of things that need to get done. The maintain shelf is a cause of the busyness trap. People who are always busy often just lack focus. They are unable to prioritize. They fill their days with many items that, if weren't completed, would make little or no difference. I saw this quite regularly with my managers at my previous engineering job. One in particular would always complain about how busy he was, and yet you never really saw any output coming from him. So don't confuse urgent with important. Doing things that are urgent but not important is where productivity goes to die. There is only so much that you can maintain, and you need to be prepared to let go of everything else. So things that would commonly go on the maintain shelf would be your job, urgent and important project-related tasks, family responsibilities, and relationships you want to keep in your life. And that's already a lot. So in each of these categories, you have to decide what exactly is important enough to maintain. You have to be selective, man. You just have to be. Shelf 3, release. I need to spend more time in the backyard with a cigar. Why do I need to do that? If the answer is because I'm becoming overwhelmed, overtight, losing my balance, losing my focus on what really matters in life, and I'm becoming hard to live with for those I care most about, for those I am responsible for, then the why is this. This will make me a better person for those around me. The build and maintain shelves are all about doing the work and being productive. But the compressing stage of a cylinder in an engine is only half the process. The entropy that was constrained needs to be released. And if it isn't released in a controlled way, it will be released in a way that is uncontrolled and destructive for you and those around you. Pressure relief valves are included in process engineering to prevent such events. And the release is very underappreciated in modern society. No one is going to congratulate you for lying on the soft grass, looking up to the sky with the sun on your face. No one is going to congratulate you for taking that needed long walk. And no one is going to congratulate you for reading One Piece each week. What people value and what is important are not always the same thing. And the release is a pretty good example of that. The release is about getting your mind off work. It gives perspective, provides balance, and enables creativity. Prioritize play, prioritize social hobbies, prioritize new experiences, prioritize novelty, and prioritize the release. Shelf 4. Empty. The morning routine is sabotaged the night before. The nighttime routine is an underappreciated sibling of the morning routine, but it is more important. Going to bed late is a much larger contributor to a lack of sleep than waking up early. We trade sleep for entertainment because we didn't allocate time for a release earlier in the day. So we attempt to combine both the release and empty into one shelf right before bed. And this is always going to happen when most people's leisure is condensed down to 2 hours per day. Everyone is turning to entertainment over hobbies after 9 PM because external stimulation does a really good job of taking the mind off the mind. And that's exactly what you want after a pretty constrained workday. And I am as guilty as anyone for this. I don't know how many mornings I have sabotaged because I didn't get to bed early enough the night before. This past week has been a pretty good example of that. I don't quite get as much done during the day as I would like to, and so I find myself trying to catch up later in the night, meaning I get to bed later than I want to, and that means I wake up later than I want to. An empty mind is a restful mind. A mind cannot be emptied while it's being filled with stimulation. You need a routine you enjoy that empties your mind and prepares you for sleep. You'll have to experiment with this for yourself. Build, maintain, release, and empty provides the shelves for a great routine. They enable curiosity, learning, productivity, creativity, community, recovery, mastery, and purpose. So basically everything that you need to be at peak performance. So let's talk about what I'm doing to implement this framework into my own daily routines. Remember, a successful routine is a routine that automates your actions to live your ideal lifestyle. You need a vision to create, a project to build, and goals to achieve. If you're not sure what your vision is, then you can work backwards. Become really clear about what you do not want, and then simply invert. A job that assigns me routines, reduces my agency, and I don't care about is the most draining thing in the world. I do not want this. Take the inverse, and I have an aspect of my vision formed. I want to be self-employed, doing work I care about, and have the ability to structure my day as best suits me. I've realized that I get a lot of enjoyment out of writing these ideas and sharing them with you guys. I really like learning about these different ideas and concepts and then writing about them in a practical way. I want these ideas to be impactful and educational to you guys and maybe even transformative. My project is to create a personal brand from writing and then create useful products that I would use and also share them with you. My goals are the individual steps I need to build the project and to move the needle in the direction of my vision. This is writing a high quality newsletter each week, turning it into a long form YouTube video, then all of the shorter form content that cascades off the newsletter. The purpose of my routine is to build the project and maintain high performance. And the first shelf we'll assemble is release, because this is where the day starts. Not literally, of course, but because my entire project relies on me having high quality ideas to write about. I need time to research for ideas, and I need space for creativity to make connections between those ideas. This requires routines to make it a part of my normal day. So the afternoons are for expanding constraints, reading a book at home or outside, listening to a podcast on a long walk, going for a walk at a new place, meeting up with friends, hanging out with people I love. These are the things that will go on the release shelf. Assembling the empty shelf. Now keep in mind that all of this is a work in progress. Ideally, I want to be awake by 6 AM. Now this gives me plenty of time to build and maintain without compromising the release. So this means I need to be in bed and ready for sleep by 10 PM, which rarely happens. Emptying the mind requires significant experimentation, because I've tried so many nighttime routines before in the past, like meditation, journaling, stretching, and none have stuck, except for a couple things. A hot shower 1 hour before bed works wonders, because the heat from the shower primes the core body temperature to decrease, which is a requirement for sleep. Now, I don't always have a hot shower 1 hour before bed, but when I do, I always notice a difference. I've started experimenting with reading philosophy and noting down my thoughts as a way to empty the mind, and I find that's working quite well. Now we assemble the build shelf. A cold shower, hydration, and work has been my morning routine for the longest time, but I want to experiment with slowing my mornings down, and I have a theory. A morning walk that gets me moving and thinking about what I want to achieve through the day would help position my mind for better focus and deep work during the build session. This would normally look like newsletter writing for 90 minutes, short form writing or filming for 60 minutes, and idea development for 60 minutes. I will have breakfast and take short breaks in between the tasks. 3 to 4 hours of pure focus to build every single day. Think about it this way. No one spends 8+ hours in the gym every single day to train their muscles. Instead, they go to the gym, work out intensely for 1 to 2 hours, and then the rest of the time is for rest and recovery. I think we should treat the mind in a similar way. Even Hormozi, despite his 12-hour days, would spend 3 to 6 hours of them in a deep focused build mode, while the rest is maintenance. Assembling the maintain shelf. This may change, but I usually use a gym session to mark the transition from building to maintaining. Exercise is crucial for performance and general health. So I'll be strength training in the gym 4 times a week, and I will substitute 2 of the other days for zone 2 cardio. I want to highlight that you can swap around what goes on the build shelf and maintain shelf, because exercise used to be on the build shelf when I was quite unhappy with my body. But because it doesn't require as much time and focus and attention now, it goes on the maintain shelf. A useful framework I learned from Essentialism by Greg McKeown is the 1, 2, 3 list for the day. 1 most important task, 2 important and urgent tasks, 3 important and not urgent tasks that make tomorrow easier. After the gym, I would normally have lunch and then transition to the maintenance tasks, usually video editing, learning a new skill, or any other spillover activities that I have to get done. After that, the workday is complete and I can move on to the release. And that's my entire ideal day, at least for now. Of course, I need to refine this and experiment and iterate to really work out what works best for me and my goals. Because remember, that's what the purpose of the routine is. So to wrap up the video, I want to make something really clear. I have all day to build, maintain, release, and empty. You probably don't. Maybe you only have 1 hour per day to build, and maybe you only have time to do 1 extra maintenance task outside of your work and other non-negotiable responsibilities. And maybe you can only do 1 thing to release in the evenings. That's okay. You need to work with the limits that you have, and don't let my experimentation prevent you from assembling your shelves in the way you would like. Be critical and intentional with what goes on the shelf. As Greg McKeown would say, less but better. Now, if you struggle with distractions, go watch this video next because it will help you understand why you do what you do, particularly your bad habits. That's all for today, my friends. As always, thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.